Hi everybody, this is Harper-Nisbet. I hope you're all doing well and doing what you can to take care of yourself and stay healthy. I also hope that you are getting out and enjoying the beautiful spring weather. I know that I do whenever I go for a run or a walk with my dog. I observe all the color and the wildlife and the beautiful flowers, and all of that just inspires me to create art or to be inspired by that to create art. With that in mind, I have here a botanical illustration of flowers that bloom in the month of March. My husband and I bought this to hang in our house because we were married in the month of March, and it's just a way to commemorate that special time in our lives. But I also admire the work of art because of all the detail, and it's a way of learning about the flowers and the names of the flowers because each flower has a tiny number beside it, and at the bottom is the name of that flower. So it's a way to enjoy art but also learn at the same time. And there were many artists throughout history that had that kind of concept in mind whenever they created art, because they weren't only artists, they were also scientists. One person in particular that I admire for his scientific and botanical illustrations is Ernst Haeckel, who was born in Germany in 1834, and he lived until 1919. So there were a lot of things going on at that time, and a lot of discoveries made in science as well as art. He was a zoologist, a naturalist, a philosopher, a physician, a professor, a marine biologist, and an artist who discovered, described, and named thousands of species. Ernst Haeckel did many illustrations of plant life and microorganisms and sea life. Here are a few examples. He definitely had a way of bringing science and art together in a very aesthetic and beautiful way. I have many more lessons and resources on my lessons page from my website that give information about other artists, not only Ernst Haeckel, artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Albert Dürer that were also considered to be naturalists, biologists, and scientists along with being an artist. It's so great to observe the beauty and wonder of nature. That's why I'm so excited to do this lesson today. So let's get started with our Ernst Haeckel inspiration. See you in a bit. Okay, so this is the sample or practice example of what we are going to try to attempt today. This is just me getting the ideas on paper, where we're going to go with the direction, and kind of exploring with different medium. But I wanted to show you this because I wanted you to see how the different materials show up on the paper depending on what you have. So I think my most successful part of this artwork is this area right here, and it was my cleanest medium. I used crayon and color pencil. Here I use some chalk pastel and oil pastel. You can use that if you have it. It's just a little messier. So if you are experimenting with this idea of the Ernst Haeckel art design, you might want to just kind of play around and practice with the drawing part first. And then if you want to explore with different medium, you can do that. So we are going to get started. I am going to use black paper just because I like it, but if you don't have black cardstock or construction paper, you can use white paper. If you feel more comfortable on white paper because you can see your lines, you can do that. And then if you choose, you can cut your shapes out and place them and glue them onto the black paper. This is really your choice, but it's just the idea and the inspiration that is the most important thing. So however you are inspired for this project, that is fine. But I'm just going to show you some drawing techniques on black paper and using color pencil and crayon. So this is my black cardstock. You can use construction paper. It doesn't really matter. If you don't have black construction paper or cardstock, you can also use white paper of any kind. This is just a composed grouping of flowers or insects, any kind of botanical design, anything like that having to do with nature. It doesn't matter if the background is black or white. So do or work with whatever you have. If you want to use like a combined operation of white paper where you draw the shapes, just like here, I've drawn a moth. And this might be part of my composition here on the black paper. But the plan is to maybe draw some shapes on white paper and then cut them out. But that is something you can do. If that's the thing that you choose to do, you can do that. What I'm going to do today, though, I'm going to start with a pencil and I'm going to draw my shapes onto the black cardstock. And you'll be able to see the pencil marking or drawing as you're creating your design and shapes. So I'm going to start with some type of design here, not necessarily in the middle, but kind of over to the side. And I'm going to do some type of floral design. Now, on my website, on the lessons page, I have more instruction or lessons on how to draw a flower. So you may want to watch that first before taking on this project, or just have at it and have fun and just start drawing flowers. Don't stress out. This is kind of for fun and for therapy, so it's to make you feel better, not make you feel bad about being stressed out doing it. Flowers should be for fun and should be relaxing to do. So hopefully you are enjoying it or will enjoy it. So what I have done, I've started in the kind of over to the side, and I've started with the center of the flower, and I've drawn a circle, and then I started adding the petals. Now you may want to just kind of think and guesstimate how you're going to approach making sure that they are even. Okay, you might even want to make dots going around and space them evenly apart. But I am just kind of guessing and drawing. And if I feel like one petal is a little too big or a little too small, I can erase and redraw. And if you want, I have another lesson where I did a watercolor design with cherry blossoms, and I had my students tracing the fingertip and blending in with watercolor. If you feel like you want to do that and you want to draw around and draw your fingertip, you can do that. That would be just fine. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of follow through with drawing some more flowers. And I'm going to fill my design and space up. I'm going to add some like design of stems, but make it to where it's more like a design, not like a garden growing. So it would be kind of like wallpaper or just kind of placing things like the sample that I showed you in the beginning. Okay, it's more of a design or a motif. And it's definitely inspired by the artist that we've been talking about. Okay, so I will follow up and I will do this in time lapse. And I will return and explain how to use the color or apply the color. Okay, so I have completed step one where I've drawn the flowers. I want to talk about visual rhythm. That is the idea where something is repeating. Now, it's not a perfect pattern, but there is a visual rhythm to this. Pattern is rhythm, but rhythm does not necessarily mean that it has to be a pattern. It just means that there is an idea repeated, either a shape being repeated or a color being repeated, and it creates visual movement throughout a work of art. So your eye just it's not stuck in one spot. It is drawn throughout the artwork. Okay, so artists choose to do that kind of thing to make their composition complete and aesthetically pleasing. I used that word earlier. That just means that it is pleasing to the eye, the idea of aesthetics. Okay, those are some good vocabulary words for you. So now to follow through with step 2 of this project, we are going to add color. And the materials I have for adding color, I have crayons and color pencil. I explained to you earlier in the practice example that I showed you in the beginning. You can use all pastels or chalk pastels, whatever you have available, but they're a little messy, and if you are a little cautious about how to do this project, you may want to use cleaner, not so messy medium. Okay, and here, this is the area that I showed you earlier that I think I like better because it's not as messy and it's neater. So that's just my preference. But anyway, we're going to follow through with step 2, and I am going to start by adding, I don't know, I think I'm drawn to this color green with the color pencil, and I'm just going to kind of experiment with that. And it shows up nicely on the black cardstock. And it would show up nicely on construction paper. My first example was on construction paper. I think that it might show up a little better on the construction paper. But you would just color and, you know, maybe color and layer your colors. You might even want to experiment where you add different values. This is a light green, and I might just kind of outline on the edge of that with a lighter green. Okay, and I'm going to take that lighter green and color. And you can see it shows up just fine. Now, one thing that you could do if you do have them available or can purchase them, construction paper crayons are great for this type of project. They really show up on black paper, but I don't have construction paper crayons. I do in my regular classroom, but I don't have them, and it's okay if you don't, because I'm making do with the materials that I have. So I am just kind of doing what feels right to me. I'm kind of experimenting, and you may want to turn it over on the back or have another piece of black paper available to practice and see what the colors are going to do on the black paper before you apply them to your project. Okay, or you can layer the hues or colors if you want to make them brighter or lighter. You can layer your crayons. So I'm looking at what I'm doing, and I will repeat the green throughout to continue with that idea of rhythm. And I'm gonna just maybe color this one in blue. And one thing that I did on my first example that I kind of like as an idea is outlining these shapes kind of like a border in white. Because Ernst Haeckel, one thing that he did do, especially in the one sample that inspired me the most for this project, the one that I showed you in the video whenever I was discussing him, was the one with the black background. I liked the design element of it. It looked like a design. It wasn't just a drawing or a diagram for scientific purpose. It was something beautiful to look at, and his design quality that was brought into his artwork was great and bright and colorful. I don't know if those microorganisms that he drew are as aesthetically pleasing as his artwork, but they're definitely inspiring for his artwork. Okay, so I am just doing a floral design here. I'm not drawing microorganisms, but if you do want to try that, I would go back through the video or go on my lessons page and look at the article that I have posted that is titled "The History of Botanical Art." And you can click on that and scroll down and see the image of his artwork. In particular, the one that is the painting of the microorganisms. They almost look like an abstract design. They're really cool, and they're symmetrical. We talked about symmetry in some of my past lessons, and it's just the idea of things being like a radial pattern or the same on both sides, like the way I'm placing my hands. And you can do your design like that. If you would prefer to do a symmetrical design, that would be fabulous. Okay, so I am just kind of experimenting. I'm going to change up the color, but one thing I do want to discuss before I follow through with time lapse is the one thing that I did to create more of a design motif is I outlined my shapes in this white outline. I like that. I chose to do that, and it kind of brought it all together, completed the composition. So everything's just kind of cohesive. That's a word that just explains it coming together. So I am going to maybe add a little bit of that in the design that I'm creating now, and I will follow up with a little discussion. So I will see you in a bit. Okay, so this is a more completed version of step 2 of the Ernst Haeckel art project that we've been creating. It is of only flowers, but if you choose and you want to have like some insects or some birds or some type of animal like that, you can look on my lessons page. I have lessons that can show you how to draw insects. So, take those ideas and incorporate it with this idea if you choose. What I have done to complete this is I've added a border, I filled in with color, I've come in with some detailed designs like little dots for elements of the flowers, coming in, adding designs to the center. So whatever you feel like you need to do, please do it. It will be your own creative design. You're not trying to copy me. It's what you feel like you need to do. So just because I'm showing you doesn't mean you have to do it just like me. So I'm going to follow up with this project with that idea of drawing microorganisms in a symmetrical design, like that one example of Ernst Haeckel's art that I showed you earlier in the video. I'm going to follow up with that as kind of like a part 2 for this lesson, so please be looking for that lesson. And meanwhile, be working on this project. Have fun doing it. I would love to see what you're working on, so remember to email me those images. Okay, have a wonderful week and happy creating. See you later. Bye.